Secretary for Housing.
President, I move that the bill be read the second time. Hong Kong is a cosmopolitan city. Over the years, we've made remarkable achievements in social, economic, and livelihood development. As Hong Kong continues to prosper and develop, we hope members of the public can share the fruits of our success. However, for a long time in the past, we were faced with various obstacles in the process of land development. This led to inadequate housing supply. People are forced to live in subdivided flats with poor living conditions. We do not wish to see people suffer, especially the elderly, young children, and those in the grassroots with health problems. Therefore, since taking office, the current term government has taken practical actions to address people's concerns and difficulties in their daily life. We've introduced a number of innovative and groundbreaking housing policies. The efforts made in the past 3 years have enabled us to reverse the predicament of insufficient housing supply, provide more choices for people living in inadequate housing, and help them improve their living environment. For example, we continue to enhance speed, quantity, efficiency, and quality to substantially increase the supply of public housing, including public rental housing and subsidized sale flats. We made a breakthrough by introducing light public housing. We also continue to promote transitional housing. All these measures help SDU tenants awaiting public rental housing or PRH to be allocated a PRH unit more quickly, enabling us to tackle the problem of substandard SDUs. According to the Census and Statistics Department in our survey, there are 110,000 SDUs in Hong Kong. 70% of them are not as bad as those often reported in the media. Many of them have windows, a separate toilet, and these flats are larger than 8 square meters in size. It is estimated that only about 30% of the tenants are living in SDUs of poor quality. These tenants live in a crowded environment and have to bear risks of structural safety, fire safety, and hygiene problems. As a responsible government, we have been actively addressing this difficult issue and formulating strategies to resolve the long-standing problem of substandard SDUs in a comprehensive and orderly manner. In 2023, the Chief Executive set up the task force on tackling the issue of subdivided units, which conducted in-depth studies and put forward proposals on tackling the problem of SDUs in a holistic manner. After considering the report of the working group, the CE announced in his last year's policy address a new regulatory regime for basic housing units, or BHUs, which will be launched by way of legislation. In future, only up to standard SDUs in residential buildings recognized as BHUs will be allowed to be let out to ensure reasonable and safe living conditions in subdivided flats. In December last year, the Housing Bureau conducted a 2-month stakeholder consultation on the BHU regulatory regime. We also consulted the LegCo panel on housing last December and this March. LegCo members and stakeholders generally agreed with the BHU regulatory framework. The current legislative proposal reflects the major views received during the consultation, including the provision of an early bird discount of the certification fee charged by the government. That is, those who register and apply early will result in full waiver of the fee. Also will exercise leniency in handling late submission of tenancy notices under the tenancy control system on SDUs, that's Form AR2, during the application period for BHUs, relax the eligibility criteria for registration, extend the grace period, and expand the scope of professionals qualified to carry out certification. I'd like to express my thanks to the stakeholders for their valuable comments, which reflect the views of the community and the actual situation. The bill seeks to provide a legal basis for the implementation of the BHU regulatory regime, which stipulates that SDUs in residential buildings must have an internal floor area of not less than 8 square meters. They must comply with the minimum standards of living conditions in 8 areas, including headroom, fire safety, structural safety, lighting and ventilation, toilet, water supply points, as well as water and electricity meters, and obtain BHU recognition before they can be lawfully let out for habitation. For the implementation of the new regulatory regime, the bill provides for a 48-month transitional period, which will start from the 1st of March next year. Beginning from the 1st of March next year, there will be a 12-month registration period during which pre-existing SDUs, upon registration, will be given a grace period of 36 months starting from the 1st of March 2027 and ending on the 28th of February 2030 to carry out necessary alteration works and apply for BHU recognition. The bill also provides for a 6-month countdown period before the expiry of the grace period. That's from the 1st of September 2029 to the 28th of February 2030, during which subdivided flats which have been registered but not validly certified will be prohibited from entering into new tenancies, so as to compel SDU operators to carry out alteration works or apply for certification as soon as possible instead of delaying the process until the last minute of the grace period. The regulatory regime will provide clear statutory standards and requirements for the operation of subdivided flats in the market. New operators can operate legally after complying with the standards, while existing operators can arrange for gradual alteration and rectification to comply with the statutory requirements within the grace period, so as to ensure that the supply of SDUs can satisfy the market demand in the long run on the premise of reasonable safety. In the course of the implementation of the new regime, substandard SDUs will gradually be phased out from the market or eradicated in future enforcement actions. To create deterrence, the bill will provide for offenses related to illegal letting. After the expiry of the registration period, that's starting from the 1st of March 2027, if 2 or more subdivided flats in a residential unit are let out independently for domestic use without valid registration and BHU recognition, the relevant operators will commit an offense. Also, during the countdown period, that's from the 1st of September 2029 to the 28th of February 2030, it will be an offense for the operator concerned to enter into a new tenancy agreement for domestic use during the countdown period for a subdivided unit, which has been registered but does not have a valid BHU certification. Depending on the seriousness of the offense and the circumstances of individual cases, the above operators will be liable on conviction to a maximum fine of $300,000 and imprisonment for 3 years, but the tenants involved will not be held criminally liable. While the quality of the existing subdivided flats can be very poor, there are also better quality flats to meet the different housing needs of the community. There are about 110,000 subdivided units in residential buildings in Hong Kong, involving about 220,000 tenants. The government will take enforcement actions against illegal leasing of unregistered and uncertified SDUs in an orderly manner after the expiry of the registration period. That's starting from the 1st of March 2027, in accordance with its pragmatic and people-centric approach. This is to also ensure that affected SDU tenants will not be displaced. To do that, the government will assist them in finding alternative accommodation through social work teams and will flexibly deploy housing resources such as transitional housing, transit centers, interim housing, and so on to provide temporary shelter for those in need. Taking into account the fact that some tenants living in subdivided flats aren't eligible for public housing, the Housing Bureau has recently proposed to introduce a new category of Group C tenants in transitional housing to provide short-term accommodation to affected SDU tenants under the law enforcement actions. Also, we will provide short-term accommodation to those with urgent housing needs. I must emphasize that even if the affected households are on the waiting list for PRH, they will not be offered early allocation of PRH flats because of the enforcement actions in order not to be unfair to others on the waiting list. The Housing Bureau will fully cooperate with the Legislative Council in the scrutiny of the bill and strive for early passage of the bill to implement the regulatory regime on the 1st of March 2026, which will be a significant step towards putting an end to substandard SDUs. To bid farewell to substandard SDUs, we must have strong determination. As the head and deputy head of the working group, Mr. Michael Wong, and I have, through many visits exchanges with stakeholders and continuous efforts to rationalize and coordinate with different government departments on the regulatory regime for BHUs. We gained a deep understanding of the complexity and urgency of the problem. Under the leadership of the CE and the Deputy Financial Secretary, and with the support of the community, I believe that Hong Kong will be able to gradually get out of the predicament of subdivided units that are of poor quality, so that all members of the community, including the grassroots, can live in a reasonable and safe environment with dignity and confidence, and be able to properly plan for a brighter future in the community with their families. I so submit. Thank you. I now propose the question to you that the aforesaid bill be read the second time. In accordance with the rules of procedure, the second reading debate is adjourned and the bill is referred to the House Committee.
The Department of Justice